Today, we're diving into one of the most profound and honestly, one of the most dangerous psychological journeys ever recorded. We're talking about Carl Jung's descent into his own unconscious, a journey that would pretty much change psychology forever. And this single sentence from Jung himself really says it all. This wasn't some casual academic exploration. This was a full-on battle for his own sanity. He was trying to make sense of a force that he genuinely felt could shatter him into a million pieces. So let's set the scene. It's around 1913. Jung has just gone through this incredibly painful and difficult breakup with his mentor, the one and only Sigmund Freud. This wasn't just a professional disagreement. It was a psychic earthquake for him, and it sent him into this period of intense disorientation that he called his confrontation with the unconscious. Now, you have to remember, Jung was a psychiatrist. He knew exactly what psychosis looked like. And he was terrified because he saw the symptoms in himself. He described the path he was on as going inward and downward, a deliberate plunge into the absolute unknown of his own mind. He knew the risks, but he also knew it was a journey he had to take. This is where he decided to record everything. But listen, we're not talking about Dear Diary stuff here. The black books are more like the raw data feed of his soul. It's an unfiltered log of his visions, his waking dreams, and his conversations with all these strange figures that were starting to emerge from inside him. And that's what's so wild about it. It was completely terrifying, absolutely, but it was also filled with these moments of incredible, profound wonder. So the big question is, how on earth did he navigate this psychic storm without being completely swept away by it? Well, he realized he needed a tool. He needed a technique to give some kind of structure to all this chaos. And in the process, he basically invented a method that would become an absolute cornerstone of his entire psychological system. Think about what this means. He figured out a way to give his unconscious a voice, and then to talk back to it, all while being wide awake. This isn't about interpreting your dreams after the fact. This is about stepping into the dream consciously and having a real conversation. This four-step process was literally his lifeline. By focusing on an image, letting it speak, and then consciously responding to it, he could actually participate in his own inner drama instead of just being a passive victim of it. Okay, so this is a really, really crucial distinction. Passive fantasy, that's just daydreaming, right? It's like watching a movie in your head, and it's usually driven by stuff you already want or know. Active imagination is where you jump into the scene and start talking to the characters, and get this, they have minds of their own. And once he got the hang of this technique, the floodgates just opened. He started to meet this incredible, unbelievable cast of characters who were living inside of him. And they weren't his creations. They were autonomous beings he could actually talk to. And then he meets Philemon. This was maybe the most important figure of them all. Philemon was his spiritual guide, his inner guru. He showed up as this old man with, get this, kingfisher wings and bull's horns. For Jung, this was a figure of superior insight, a wise teacher who was there to walk with him and explain the very nature of the soul. And Philemon just drops this bombshell on him. He showed Jung that the psyche wasn't just his. It was an objective, real world with its own life. And the thoughts and images inside it, they were as real as anything in the outside world. I mean, that's a total game changer, right? It means your thoughts aren't things you create, they're things that happen to you. But it wasn't just the wise old man. There was also Salome. She was beautiful, sensual, but crucially, she was blind. Jung knew immediately what this meant. She represented his anima, his feminine soul, the part of him connected to feeling, to relationship, to what he called eros. Her blindness was a symbol for how this vital part of himself was still totally unconscious. And here is where it gets so brilliant. You have the wise, holy prophet Elijah, and with him is Salome, this sensual, seductive figure. And they tell Jung they've been together for all eternity. It's the perfect illustration of one of Jung's biggest ideas, the union of opposites. The sacred and the profane, spirit and eros, they aren't separate. They're two halves of a single eternal whole. So Jung has all this raw, chaotic, powerful stuff in his black books. But he starts to realize that just recording these experiences isn't enough. This primal material needed to be understood, to be integrated, and to be given a more beautiful, more meaningful form. So he began working on this massive, leather-bound volume called the Red Book. And this thing is a masterpiece. We're talking medieval calligraphy, intricate, stunning paintings. This wasn't just an art project. For Jung, it was an act of what you might call compassionate repair, taking the terrifying contents of his own mind and giving them dignity and form. And just to give you an idea of how directly connected these two projects were, about 50%, half, of the text in the magnificent artistic Red Book is drawn straight from the raw, handwritten, and often chaotic entries of the Black Books. You can think of it like this. The Black Books were the raw, dangerous lead ore that he mined from the deepest parts of his soul. The Red Book, well, that was the alchemy. That was the long, painstaking process of transforming that lead into gold through conscious understanding, artistry, and deep reflection. Okay, so you might be wondering, this is a fascinating, wild story about one man's inner crisis more than 100 years ago. But why does it matter to us today? Why should we care about all this? Because here's the thing. In healing himself, in taking the time to map his own inner world, he ended up creating a map that could be used by all of us. From this one terrifying personal experiment, he extracted universal principles of the human psyche. I mean, just look at this list. The idea of a collective unconscious that we all share, the psychological archetypes, these universal patterns like Philemon, the wise old man, or Salome, the anima, the whole theory of individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming who you truly are. All of these foundational, game-changing concepts were born directly from this descent. The Black and Red Books are basically the secret origin story of analytical psychology. At the end of the day, Jung's journey doesn't just tell us about him. It's an invitation. It offers us a framework for understanding the figures and the stories that live inside all of us. He provided the map of his world, not to give us answers, but to leave us with a really compelling question. What myths, what figures, and what stories are waiting inside of yours?